Now we'll have our first panel of the day, moderated by Julian, and we'll welcome Marcos, CEO and founder at Gnosis, Axel, CEO and founder at Kulipa, and Pierre, business director at Circle.
Thanks. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Yeah, perfect. Good idea. Good to see you too. So Marcos, this guy.
I saw him outside.
You saw him outside? So do we have anyone from Gnosis here and can ask Marcos on stage? As expected, they are busy. But let's kick it off anyways. So great to have you on the panel first. As you saw, I'm pretty passionate about what we are all building. I talked a lot about Monerium as a stablecoin provider. Obviously, there are others. Among them, Circle, who just got their license last week in Europe, which is a tremendous success. Everyone who worked in regulated finance knows kind of how difficult it is to unlock those. So congratulations on that. I would suggest we start with a very, very brief opening round, wait until Marcos is there, and then we kick it off. So, Pierre, do you want to introduce yourself and what you're doing at Circle?
Yeah. Thank you. And yes, not easy to be MiCA-approved, so happy to be here. I'm on the business development side, covering exchanges, Europe, North America, LATAM, and quite simply looking to grow USDC, EuroC circulation on exchanges, listings, volume. We have quite a catch-up to do, and so excited to be here. Thank you again.
And exchanges means like centralized exchanges, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great to have you. Axel.
So CEO and founder of Kulipa. We are I would say debit card issuer for crypto wallets, fully decentralized, and the goal is to enable wallets with the capacity to issue cards. As you mentioned, or Julian, I don't remember, you can go to McDonald's next door and spend your stablecoin straight out of your wallet, and we do that in a fully white label manner. So the user will never see our brand except if they come here. But yeah, but we work for the wallets directly, and we brand the cards with that. And we are quite proud to be later today announce the launch of our card with Argent. Which is our first wallet we're working with, and there are quite a few coming down the road.
Looking forward to a demo, yeah. And last but not least, but maybe least, I don't know. Luckily, the funds when you pay with Gnosis settle faster than Marcos makes it on stage. So Marcos, can you please introduce yourself briefly?
I have to say that I'm half Brazilian, half Italian. That makes me 100% dodgy and always late. Apologies, guys. I was outside. I didn't notice it started. So Marcos from Gnosis. We've been in this journey now for a year officially. We launched in FCC last year, saying the first transaction on stage. That I was a bit scared because the Bluetooth terminal almost let us down. And ever since, a lot of things evolved. I think the part that is most interesting is, of course, connected to the topic, OpenFi. Regulators first, they gave us the permission, and then they started asking questions, and now we're in the question phase. So a lot of education back, and the good news is we're still operating, which means I think that we're probably getting them more and more comfortable with how things are moving. So been in payments for long, and definitely happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe small resume here so far. I think we have here now 4 fintech people. Axel, what's your background?
I'm definitely fintech, coming from payments. 7 years at MasterCard. Worked for 1 year in a real bank. Hated it, and then worked for a couple of fintechs. The last one being where I built a payment institution for Spendesk, spend management platform in France, and yeah, so. Being in payment for almost 12 years now.
Yeah, and now imagine how it must look on the kind of traditional banking and fintech side if you see all the three minds here leaving over to crypto, and you can see that on a really, I see my ex-colleague from the bank, Alan here in the space, also now working for a crypto company. That's quite of an exodus that's happening, and it's great to see the bright minds now working on the good side on Web3. Awesome. So, Pierre, let's start with you. How do you see, you're probably listening to the keynote at the beginning, I mean, Circle still is a centralized company. You are even regulated. You will have to adhere to anti-money laundering law and stuff like that. How do you see OpenFi, rather than the companies you mostly work with, as I understand it, the sexes of this world, the centralized exchanges?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just quite simply, we're the pipes, the underground. I think stable is stability should be equated to, like, you shouldn't necessarily see kind of everything that's going on in the background. So our job is to make it as easy as possible to get on chain, stay on chain, and go from centralized to DeFi. So ultimately, infrastructure and pipes, being kind of the main thing.
Cool. I think here's no one that needs an introduction into USDC, so we are all aware. Also, the possibility to use it on both sides, right? Like in being well integrated in Coinbase, seeing more and more like use cases like Grab in Southeast Asia, while at the same time being also a token that can work well in DeFi. That's amazing. I think that's what other stablecoin providers will still have to get more adoption on, and therefore. Great what you're doing. So let me follow up on this question then on OpenFi and your perspective on that. If you would have 100, say, EURC, because that's also regulated now, right? Euro-denominated stablecoin by Circle. If you would have to bet that on either, if you would have to bet on a prediction market that says the most stablecoin adoption will be driven either by centralized services like Coinbase or like Galaxy or something like that, or via the Gnosis Pays, the Kulipas, and the Zeals of this world, so OpenFi. Where would you put your money?
I should be careful with this answer. No, I think the long-term demand is based on a couple things: control and security over your own assets. So if you follow those two, OpenFi in the long term will win. And so I think we're seeing. I mean, we're all here. We continue to see growth, and so in the end, OpenFi. I think there's a couple things that we're doing on our side around wallet as a service, programmable wallets, where we're based on both of those: complete control and unparalleled security, and now regulatory approvals. And so we hope that Mika is kind of this finally moment where it's like, okay, we've been doing things the right way. Now in Europe, it's finally widely accepted. We hope that other regions, countries continue and in this path, and so that'll in the end, the user will benefit from that, right? Because exchanges, stables will all be completely, under regulatory approvals, where we'll hopefully see less of some of the things that we've seen in the past.
So what ticket do you buy on a poly market? The OpenFi ticket or the CFI ticket?
OpenFi ticket.
Sorry? Sorry?
OpenFi ticket.
Okay, good. Recorded, yeah. Okay, Axel, you have
I think one of the I agree with you. The long term is definitely OpenFi. I mean, centralized exchanges and all that have a head start, because I mean, we're moving from a very centralized banking system, and they were in that transition. I mean, it was easier for them, for example, to do a card. It's easier for them to build a card because they hold your assets, so they can settle with the scheme whenever they want. And Gnosis did the same. We're not managing our own ledger. The card is settling on chain, and that's very very much harder than what one of my investors told me, yeah, these centralized exchange cards are glorified off-rampings. And we did. I think what we do is way harder, but that's also the right way of doing it, because we keep the assets on chain as much as we can, and that's how we really bring the efficiency of OpenFi to the system, because and there's a head start from centralized exchanges, but the long-term efficiency is coming from OpenFi, and that transition is happening. It's going to take longer, but longer term, OpenFi.
I think I have a nice follow-up here on how exactly does it work. So I think, like, especially with my focus on building or like doing BD in the realm of smart accounts, and also Gnosis Pay leveraging this technology, so building on top of Safe, how does it work in your case? How do the funds that's sitting on an address now get to be settled on, is it Visa or MasterCard?
We depending on the region, we'll do both.
Okay.
I mean, being ex-MasterCard, I had closer connections to my ex-colleagues, so we moved faster with MasterCard, even if Visa was quite ahead with Gnosis. So the way it works is we need to create a debit card experience. So we need to really be able to trigger an on-chain transaction with the balance that is in the wallet. Yeah. We wanted as much as we could to avoid the top-up experience, like moving funds out of the main balance into a card balance, because it can be frustrating if you have $1,000 on your card and you want to spend $1,001, you can then it gets declined. What we wanted is really to enable the users to have the same experience as they can have with their checking account and a card that's on it. So the tricky part is to be able to trigger that transaction, and because we don't own the ledger, to avoid double spending, because we don't want the user to empty the wallet and just make a transaction afterwards, because we need to be able to capture the funds. So depending on the technology of the wallet, we either get a session key, or we have an allowance on the wallet, or we have...
So it's a smart account?
It's a smart account. Okay. Yeah, I mean, with Argent, it's a smart account. They have the whole Starknet technology behind it, and in the talk that Julian, their chief scientific officer, is doing at 4:50, not making any commercials there, but where you're going to see the first demo, is talking about all of the infrastructure they've built with session keys to be able to do what we do. But we can also work with allowances on EOA wallets. Trickier because...
It would be token allowance then? Or
yeah, token allowance, yeah. It's trickier because we...
That's used up, you cannot...
We pull the funds, but we take in the risk of not getting finality before we have to say yes or no to MasterCard. Yeah. And that's where we need to manage the risks there. If we don't get finality before that, we have to still decide if we say yes to MasterCard, and be sure that we're going to be able to settle, because once we've said yes to the scheme, we're liable to settle, and they're not gonna accept. Oh, sorry guys, we couldn't get the funds from the wallet. We also work with some of the more advanced MPC wallets, where when they have a key management policy that's quite smart enough to be able to enable us to do things like that. But depending on the wallet, we adapt the way we pull the funds and we collect the funds.
Okay, so wallet agnostic, but you see advantages in smart accounts, and the use case with Argent works with the smart account on Starknet.
Indeed.
I see. Okay, so Marcus, how do you solve that? How do you make sure that there's not double spend? I mean, I can tap my card and at the same time do a transaction and then use it on the risk, right?
No, because the way we basically look at it is funds cannot move out of the wallet for a period of time. So once the card transacts, you can put whatever timer until you settle the transaction. So we authorize the transaction in the standard of the payments or the practice in payments. You can have up to 11 seconds. We do it in 2 seconds on average. And once we basically give an okay, then if the user wants to withdraw funds, let's say he has €1,000 balance, and the transaction is 100 euros. So he can try to do 901, it will be denied. If he does 900, then it's okay. And for the remaining, 1, 2, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that is, we basically don't allow that 100 to go outside his account. So
And how does it work? How can you if it's
parameters in the
self-custody-
safe with safe.
Okay.
So and also in combination with the processing rules that we have established for the smart contract accounts. That we experience to be the best way, and then you can accelerate settlement. So you reduce that 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes to seconds, hopefully instant settlement. But instant settlement is not a conversation about technology anymore. Then it becomes a business conversation between the agreements you have with the schemes, where settlement will happen in T plus 1, 2, 3, 4, and that has nothing to do with technology. Well, the money can be available instantly for intercontinental transactions.
I see. Small word to the organizer. We still constantly see 15 minutes. It
We
does
still
not
have 15 minutes. It's very simple.
Yeah. No, how many? 10 minutes left. Okay, just like we don't see the clock. If you can give a hand for another 5. Okay, cool. So then question to you both until we move on to Circle. What like, when we are at VCC, there's a stage on ETH VC. So, and we know the VCs complain on the one hand that we always talk about infrastructure and the application layer is missing. And then you go to an event and you see clapping hands by VCs for a thing like Eigenlayer, which is a kind of infrastructure for infrastructure, or like a security layer for even more infrastructure. And while I try to understand it and probably makes sense. What I like about you guys, you have really something to touch. There's money, there are 2 fintechs, you do white label, I believe, but in addition to that also you can pay with Gnosis Pay already today. This is what I think OpenFi also makes different, right? You really have an application layer. But like, who are you targeting? Are you both of your services already ready for mass adoption? Can I just enter the city center here in Brussels and the people will be capable of paying with Kulipa and Gnosis Pay?
Yeah. So yes, the answer is yes. The short answer is yes, and the reason why, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to rely on existing payment rails, and that's why we decided that the card was. I mean, when I was working on Mastercard, I was in charge of deploying Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay globally, and I could see people not making the transition between their plastic card and Apple Pay. Just that change of tapping a card versus tapping a phone was already too much of a change. So anything that requires change in people habits in payment, for me is so much friction that I think that's where the traditional ecosystem and the way people are used to do finance should be imported and optimized by the new technology of decentralized ledgers and crypto and all of that, and we should not have a divide anymore in between these 2 worlds. These 2 worlds have to bring efficiency and value to each other, and that's exactly what the journey we're on to. And I think that's the principle we all buy into.
Yeah. So I mean, to complement, because I will, of course, think extremely similar. We can issue cards to banks right now, and that means a card can be configured between taking funds out of a banking ledger or a blockchain account, and that optionality can come on a business case decision. So I was hoping to announce in this FCC the first bank. We didn't sign the contract, so I won't be able to say it. But I will be announcing the first bank issuing in mass scale. And the idea is, of course, to have US dollars abroad whenever you are in the US, or euros when you're in Europe, and potentially other currencies. And that can be controlled by the bank initially, but later on by users. So the cost of cross-border transactions, which is something that people in MasterCard knows quite well, is at least 100 basis points if you are a very large player. And if you combine all fees in a payment transaction, it's easily 300. So you can actually have domestic transactions when transacting with our products, which I think it's a entry point for you to actually navigate traditional world. So I see this as just the beginning, and hopefully we can replace banking ledger from mainframe to blockchain. And I think that's where the industry, of course, needs to understand the problems so we can collaborate and expand the services within the technology.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, so in the while I said at the very beginning, right, a lot of people in crypto kind of hate banks or say they hate banks, or they really do whatsoever. But like, what is really a huge, massive, tangible data point is what Marcus just said. Like, if you buy jeans for $100, the merchant roughly receives 97. That's 3%. Who of you would accept kind of an onboarding fee for 300 basis points? Probably no one. So there are real costs. And swapping out the banks and getting a decentralized ledger in still needing some gateways, or like I don't want to say gateways, but providers like money from Circle on front ends who connected with the Visa network just makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it's important to do that with them in the flow.
Yeah.
And later on, you now start bringing new parties in, and they offer better services with less fees, which puts the traditional banks under pressure.
Exactly, yeah.
And then we can have the economy playing its game.
Yeah.
BlackBerry learned on the tough way, maybe Kodak learned in the tough way. So I think our job is to ensure that we make no difference between both worlds, and later on, the consumer will understand that he doesn't have to choose between crypto or fiat. He has to choose between dollars, euros, pounds, potentially a global coin. I don't know. Let's see.
And I really like the analogy you made when you launched last year with voice over IP.
Yeah.
It used to be that we had to have Skype out minutes and all that to be able to use the efficiency of voice over IP. Now every single phone call is a voice over IP call. Nobody realizes it, and to me that's where we're going. Everything is going to be blockchain based, and it's going to be completely transparent for the users, and that's where we need to and for the banks and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Axel. Sorry, Pierre.
Yeah, sorry. Just to add to all that, I think there's while we're kind of transitioning from banks and the exchanges on the crypto side really act as so many different things right now, right? Exchanges, staking providers, custodians, etc. I paid for my coffee this morning with the Coinbase wallet, right? Like we need more of that, whether it's through exchanges, through platforms. We need kind of that entire ecosystem to continue to grow. And there's a major space. On the retail side, we typically stay away from that and rely on exchanges and providers to do that. On the institutional side, is where we also have to ensure that there's liquidity, and we're working with liquidity providers to ensure that it's easy. So I think there's a lot of work on the EuroC side that hopefully in the coming months, in the coming year, we'll see a lot more liquidity on the EuroC side, and then in turn a lot of demand products that will help keep EuroC active.
Yeah. Awesome. I think we have 10 seconds left. It's not enough for one last question. That leaves me with thanking you guys for the service that you bring, you and your companies. I think that will ultimately be a bedrock for the mass adoption that we are all waiting for. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.